I think that one of the more compelling questions that was raised with our Becoming Brigitte series was, is it possible for someone to be like, yeah, no, really, all of my friends keep getting trouble for abusing kids, but I swear it's not me, it's just all my friends. Yeah, I find myself kind of arriving at this same question regarding Turning Point faith. I don't like Turning Point faith. I'm an enemy of Turning Point faith. There, I said it. I think it's pretty obvious. I don't like it at all. These pastors, their backgrounds, finding God, the grift of finding God I'm referring to, becoming very obvious. And I'm asking the question, how many connections are too many connections when it comes to activity in the East on military bases? Also, you are going to believe me now because I'm going to show you this lawsuit that they're going through. It's making its way through the courts anyway. Just allegations, I suppose you could say, but it certainly puts another coin in the Candace was right jar. So let's jump right into it. Welcome back to Candace. Okay, today's show is going to be brought to you by Nimi Skincare, so thank you to them. It's refreshing to work with a brand that has not changed with every single cultural trend. They have clean ingredients, simple routines, and products made in America. So that's why I love Nimi Skincare. You can visit NIMIskincare.com today. Where should we begin? War everywhere. That's just what we're doing. It definitely seems like land grab everywhere. And it doesn't seem like it. That's what's happening. And you know what actually is stuck in my head? It kind of lives in the back of my head that we never really discussed more fully on this show. But when I spoke to the influencers at the retreat, and this is not suspicion, by the way, Bill Ackman confirmed it, that he gave this presentation to encourage younger generations not to own property. Like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, you should just rent for the rest of your life. Just become rent slaves for the rest of your life. I feel like that so perfectly fits into this narrative, this global narrative that we have, where it seems like somebody hit a button and they are rushing and they just want to buy up land. And they're doing it through a lot of different venues, private equity, buying a bunch of land. Then you have these unnatural disasters and suddenly the land's super cheap. And of course, their preferred method of war. War everywhere all the time. So many people, oh my gosh, you won't believe what these radicals are doing. And of course, it just seems to be that whenever Bibi Netanyahu's around the corner, like, hey, I want that piece of land, suddenly our media starts telling us, hey, you wouldn't believe how free these people are trying to get in Iran. These people are really, woo, we need to free the Iranians. Oh, they've been living in oppression. Bibi is over here like, ooh, land. Oh, no, really? It's about spreading democracy. Code word, that's military code word for dropping bombs and stealing a bunch of stuff that isn't ours, a bunch of land that isn't ours. Anyways, war with Iran, it's now back on the table firmly. Why? Because, well, Israel wants it. And one of the more interesting things in the Charlie Kirk timeline, our master timeline that we've created, is the month of June. Because we know that during the month of June, according to Tucker Carlson and other people who have come out and spoken about this, Charlie goes head to head with Bibi Netanyahu. And Charlie wins, by the way, in the moment. He lobbies in the month of June for President Trump not to get involved in Israel's war with Iran. He says just limit it to taking out their nuclear sites. Anything more than that, and you're going to lose the base. And yet everybody around Trump is completely infiltrated. They're a bunch of Zionists. They're lobbying on behalf of Israel. No, do more, get involved. Charlie wins. Charlie was adamant that war with Iran would not benefit the Trump campaign, and it would not benefit the American people. And we can hear him in his own words on this because I find it compelling that they want us to honor Charlie by not asking questions, donating money, but not by actually carrying forth his actual ideas, the things that came out of his mouth, the issues that he was concerned with in the months leading up to his life. So let's listen to Charlie Kirk regarding the neocons who could buy their way, apparently, onto the Turning Point USA stage and their insistence that we need to go to war with Iran. Take a listen.
Let's do some updates about Israel and Iran and potentially the United States. On one side, is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas and has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia. But also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya.
Well, I would push back, Charlie, only to say that it's very much the intended result. I find it so funny when people make the argument, well, you wouldn't want to live in this country in the Middle East. You wouldn't want to live in Iraq. And obviously, the West is the best. Yeah, do you want to know why I wouldn't want to live there? Why I want to live in Libya? We want to live in Iraq? Because we bombed them. And we wouldn't stop bombing them. We bombed them pretty much into the actual dark ages. That's the goal of these things, is to make it so these people can't live ahead and live in poverty. So yeah, no, you're right. I wouldn't want to live there because neocons insist on bombing and taking these countries' resources and controlling them therein with really kind of gangs. That's kind of the methodology. Gangs will then run the streets and we will supply the weapons anyways. Tucker Carlson similarly echoed this at the time. Lindsey Graham was just doing what Lindsey Graham does. I think personally, he's got the largest blackmail file. Whatever Israel has on him, it is terrifying. Okay. It is terrifying. We know what Lindsey Graham probably gets up to. We've had some male hookers come out and make some allegations, but they were running a pretty sophisticated blackmail ring in DC. And Lindsey Graham just comes out and immediately is like, whatever Israel wants all the time, bomb them now. And Tucker Carlson, I think, put it quite succinctly when he said this about Lindsey Graham. Take a listen.
What you don't want are flighty, emotionally incontinent, silly people on the payroll of foreign nations making the decisions in an empire, because that's how you get in trouble. People like, just throwing this out there, say Lindsey Graham. Here he is in the aftermath of Venezuela.
To the people of Iran, we stand with you tonight. We stand for you taking back your country from the Ayatollah, a religious Nazi, who kills you and terrorizes the world. We pray for you. We support you. Donald J. Trump is not Barack Obama. He has your back. And to the Ayatollahs, you need to understand, if you keep killing your people who are demanding a better life, Donald J. Trump is going to kill you.
Every time you see that guy on TV, it really just reminds you of like getting pulled over for DUI with your drunk girlfriend in the passenger seat screaming at the cop, "You can't do this! Take your hands off him! He's going to beat you up!" Lindsey Graham really is the drunk girlfriend. Picking fights he'll never have to participate in. We're going to kill you! Settle down, son.
He is so correct with that analogy. That is exactly who he is. But I think he's got tears in his eyes. I think they called him and they're like, we were going to release the file right now and everyone's going to see what you did. And then he's like, that's Lindsey Graham. Anyways, back to Charlie. I want to now show you this in our master timeline. Charlie going head to head with Bibi Netanyahu, because June is when things start to look funny. Okay. Not a great thing in your life to win against the murderous Israeli regime, okay? Not so concerned about Iran, very concerned about the murderous Israeli regime, okay? And we're going to look at that timeline between just the dates of May 13th through to June 24th. Now, I know you don't even know this plane, this purple plane, light purple plane, SUBTU. This is when we get to the Egyptian planes here, but I'm building this all up for you with the priests and the pastors and Liberty University. There's a reason that we're waiting on that. But SUBTU is a plane First, our anchor plane comes in. The anchor plane comes in May 23rd, lands into Provo. And I think in terms of the patterns that I'm seeing with the Egyptian planes, it gets there before their A-lister arrives. You know, like they get there, maybe scope the place first because somebody big's on board. May 27th is when that follow-up plane comes in. That's always going to be a quick trip. And if you actually looked this up on Flight Radar, you would not see this trip. It's going to look to you like this tail number, SUBTU, is just flying around in circles in Cairo. I have been able to confirm that they are able to trick their transponders and they can leave the nation. So it is a fact. You're not going to be able to see this on Flight Radar. You're just going to see a lot of activity looking like it's just going around. But this tail number, SUBTU, is going to fly into Provo, and this Walid Mahmoud is going to be aboard. That's an important name because that's going to be the same Walid Mahmoud that's going to be on our yellow plane on the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there's no transponding. Anyways, then we have it departs on June 2nd. Back, it leaves Provo, heading back to Cairo. And once again, it does not transpond during that flight, but I have confirmed that those planes were in fact in Provo. Immediately following this trip, Iran and Israel's 12-day war commences, okay? Now, maybe actually, since it wasn't transponding, who knows, maybe it went to D.C. That plane could have actually gone to D.C., I don't know. I shouldn't even say it went back to Cairo. But on June 13th, Iran and Israel's 12-day war commences. Every time I start building these planes, something's going on in Israel, and these planes get going. And I've learned Provo basically has a city underground. Pretty safe place, I would say. I would speculate that if you needed to get a very important person out of the area, out of Israel during wartime, Provo would be a great place for this person to go. And there were some strange cancellations. But again, I'm going to save that, government cancellations in Provo at that time. But I'm going to save that again for when we go through the Egyptian planes. Point being is that Iran and Israel's 12-day war commences. And we know that then between June 14th and June 21st, leading up to our Operation Midnight Hammer, which is when we send out the planes to bomb Fordow, Charlie's lobbying and saying no more involvement, okay? Another interesting thing, which I didn't introduce as I've been building out this timeline in the background, is that on June 19th, Erica purges her Instagram, okay? She deletes 126 Instagram posts. By no means a little. That is according to Social Blade, and we have that somewhere so you can see that. So I don't know, maybe Charlie's saying, I feel threatened. I don't want people knowing where we're going. Who knows? But that's a noticeable purge of content that takes place in this same time frame. I just wanted to explain that to you because it's on the master timeline. And then, like I said, what happens is, bam, we decide to bomb Fordow, a limited military exercise. And everyone says, war with Iran is over. The Panikins were wrong. And we were going, no, we weren't wrong. We weren't wrong. What Bibi wants, Bibi gets. So this just means we're hitting pause. And now we're here. Okay? Now we are actually here and they are demanding that we get more involved. And now they're doing their preferred, just in time, a color revolution. They're taking to the streets, demanding freedom. Really, CIA and Mossad, if you haven't done this literally in every country, like if you could just do a new strategy, I might actually believe that. But I don't even believe that like 2% that's what's happening in that country. It's just, color revolution. Pretend it was organic and we're here to rescue them. Anyways, it's interesting. All of this is interesting because we don't see those principles of no involvement, staying away from neocons. We don't hear that now being reflected at Turning Point USA. Like we're trying to figure out in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, which was obviously a good thing for Bibi Netanyahu, his war ambitions in Iran, what exactly has this organization become? Well, here's one thing that I can tell you, and you probably will believe this, but yesterday, obviously, I speculated, because I am enemies with their faith division, that it was, in fact, created in the image of the Moonies cult, a Korean cult. And after I questioned their expansion into estate planning as it pertains to the elderly, I was going, kind of weird. They used to just want a donation. Now they kind of want you to put them in your wills, someone brought it to my attention that there actually was a lawsuit filed at the end of 2024 against Turning Point USA and YAF with exactly the inclinations that I had underscored. Okay, remember, I told you the assassination of Abe Shinzo, the former prime minister of Japan, he was a longtime prime minister. He gets assassinated because the person was destitute, broke, and said, Abe, you are to blame for this. Your entire cabinet is filled with this. You've been pushing this. And my brother committed suicide. I almost committed suicide. We don't even have enough money to eat because my mother gave all of her money to this church, the Unification Church. Well, guess what? This is real life. In December of 2024, a court petition was filed challenging the last will and testament and trust of a man named Alton C. Jennings, okay? Alton died at 95 years old. He had a very long life. Per the lawsuit, these are still just allegations. Per the lawsuit, Alton began showing signs of cognitive decline in 2020. And at that time, a year later, rather, in 2021, he hired a caretaker. That caretaker's name is Mitch Manley Sr. Okay, so you're thinking, Grandpa now has a caretaker. We're good. I should tell you this lawsuit was filed by his grandson. In this lawsuit, the grandson alleges that thereafter, Mitch Manley Sr. isolated his declining grandfather from his friends, from his family, and he seized control of his finances. Now, I should now tell you that Mitch Manley's son, so Mitch Manley's the caretaker, his son is Mitch Manley Jr., who was working for Turning Point USA at this time. He's actually working on Charlie Kirk's show. So his dad's taking care of this old man who's in cognitive decline. And here we go. The son is working for Turning Point USA. And would you believe it, lo and behold, when the elderly man died less than 3 years later at the age of 95, the family discovered that he had changed his will. He changed his will in November of 2023. So for clarity, just 4 months before this man died at the age of 95, he moved to change his will. And you'll never guess who he decided to leave his estate to, estate which was valued at $25 million. He left it, split it amongst Turning Point Action, headed up by none other than Tyler Boyer. Ta-da! And YAF. What can I say, you guys? Granddad was a patriot in his senile state. He just became, he's like, you know what? I know that I had my grandson and my family, but I just decided that at the ripe age of 93, actually, I would like to give to causes in Arizona. And so bye-bye, grandson. How does that make you guys feel? I don't know. I am just amazed. I'm actually, oh man, the Moonies cult just opened everything. Everything is just locking into place suddenly. And look, I want to be clear, just so I sound like a cultist. I'm sure this was all done for God. Really, who could possibly think otherwise? If you have any questions about that story or you want more details, I want you to know that you are trying to destroy Charlie's legacy. Everybody grieves differently, okay? And yeah, some people have wills and estates changed for 93-year-old men, and the money is awarded to themselves. It's the best way to grieve. Now, why is this all just feeling so the opposite of godly, almost satanic? Yeah, welcome to politics. And speaking of satanic, and I mean literally, speaking literally of satanic, many of you were emailing us regarding a certain board member at Turning Point USA, right? We kept discussing this element of militant faith. All of these pastors happen to be in the military. Oh, it's kind of weird. Background in high-ranking military members. People using Christianity for ultimately what looks like militant aims. Global governance. For whatever reason, when we explore that topic, we also find this recurring theme of sex abuse. It's almost as if all of these satanic things are coming in the name of the Lord. Well, enter this TPUSA board member named Paul Vallely. Paul E. Vallely. I want you to look at this guy. And he is exactly the kind of board member that I would expect to be involved with Turning Point Faith. By way of background, Paul E. Vallely was a military commander. He was the military commander for none other than the 7th Psychological Operations Group. That's already compelling for me, right? The 7th Psychological Operations Group. There were 6 before it. And what number are we at now? Okay, can we just take a second to appreciate that our military is literally running mind wars? Mind wars. And that's what he did. Our military is engaged in them. That's why I keep telling you, when you're on the internet and you're just being yelled at and they're just trying to break down your brain, they figured that if a bunch of people say something, you'll just follow the lead. That's what these bot farms are all about. I actually kind of subscribe to the dead internet theory, especially when I'm on X. I'm like, this is obviously run by the military. I've never seen the bots say we shouldn't go to war ever. And yet when I speak to people, nobody wants to go to war. So there you go. Anyways, back to Paul Vallely. Vallely did 2 combat tours in Vietnam. He was in Japan, Korea, Iraq, Israel, you name it, all over the place throughout Europe. And while he was serving, he collaborated with a major that was working under him, okay? This major became his official research and analysis team leader, and his name was Major Michael, look at those eyebrows, unbelievable, Michael Aquino. They hit it off so well, Paul and Michael, so well that in 1980, the two of them decided to co-author a book correctly termed, aptly entitled, Mind War. Now, who is Michael Aquino? Because this is where it gets interesting. Aside from being an intelligence officer and an expert of psychological warfare, just like Vallely, doing this on behalf of our military, he's also an open Satanist. Honestly, I'm starting to think that being an avowed Satanist might be the very reason that he was welcomed into the ranks of our military. And I'm going to tell you his background story. That whole garb that he's wearing, by the way, this is Aleister Crowley. For those of you in the book club, those of you reading, we've been reading Chaos. This is what established Hollywood. You are not imagining it. This is what these people believe in. And in 1969, lo and behold, speaking of the book Chaos, when the military was just spiking the ball, psychological operations, moon landing, whenever you're ready, the Manson murders, whenever you're ready, all military. Anyways, in 1969, this guy Aquino joined the Church of Satan. And in 1969, he then rose through the ranks of that church as the Magister Caverns, of the 4th degree within the church hierarchy. He became the editor of the publication, The Cloven Hoof, and he sat on the governing council of the 9. In 1975, he left to form his own satanic church because just like other churches break apart, there was a schism. And the schism was because they couldn't establish the doctrine, because the Satanists were saying, like, Satan is an idea. And he was like, no, Satan is literal. And so they had the great satanic schism, you could say. He accuses Anton LaVey, who's the founder of the Church of Satan, of heresy for claiming that Satan was merely a metaphor and not an actual being. So I'm going to now let Michael Aquino, who's head of PSYOPs, along with Paul Vallely, who's a board member, tell you what the goals were when he established the Temple of Set. Take a listen.
I just want to start out, I think, by clarifying and understanding the nature of what it is to be a Setian. Obviously, slightly different from a Satanist, but obviously you did spend some time with the Church of Satan under LaVey initially. And just to understand what is the mindset, what is the philosophy of a Setian? What is that worldview like?
The Temple of Set was originally thought to take the context of what our original satanic experience had been out of the Judeo-Christian mythology system. And harking back to the original Church of Satan days, we were looking really to find the nature of what is generally called the human soul. In other words, what it is within us that animates us, that gives us freedom of decision, of conceptualization, the intellectual life force. The Church of Satan, of course, had a certain social criticism aspect to it, and it also liked to hold Judeo-Christianity's feet to the fire. After 10 years, both of those became sort of played out. And we were looking, as Obi-Wan Kenobi suggested to Luke Skywalker in the first Star Wars movie, to take a first step into a larger universe. So the Temple of Set exists to explore the self, the personality, and we do this through the media of ancient Egyptian religion, which we found to be the most sophisticated. So what you see in the Temple of Set is not anything with an agenda towards good or evil per se, but rather towards understanding consciousness, and once you understand consciousness, to maximize your personal use of it in such a way that you are not the slave to conventions or to propaganda of any sort, for that matter, so that you are in fact in effect a God yourself, responsible for your own decisions concerning matters of good or evil or morality.
I don't see why he would be disqualified to join the military. I mean, it sounds like he's committed. And yeah, this is what's going on. It's so important for you guys to recognize this because there's been so much gaslighting. They try to call people crazy. And when they describe these things and they're telling you this is what's going on in Hollywood. And I just hope that as we have been going through these series, and that's why I think it's so important to, rather than keeping up with daily news, be focused, actually. Because even that is ADHD. You're distracted. You're talking about a bunch of things. Let's actually stay on one topic and follow it to its end. And every time we do this, we end up here where it's very obvious whether we're talking about Becoming Brigitte, we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and now we are talking about Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA and Faith and this guy that's on the board. We always land here, okay? This is not a satanic panic. This is history. What he's referring to, and if you are on my book club, we've spoken about this at length. I keep telling you guys about the Frankists that came, right? The Franklin cover-up that came to America. They say, oh, this was a fringe cult. No. These people have always been in power. They've been backed by the bankers. And what he's referring to, what they follow, is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. They've kept this, okay? This is what they follow, spells, rituals, and they do believe in the self. They believe that they can make themselves gods by violating nature. So part of their ritual is to harm the innocent because that's unnatural. It's unnatural to harm a child, and that's what they're doing. I want you to know that. I want you to just put that in the back of your mind and to pay attention to that, and why I urge you guys to get your children out of these schools. I really mean that. Because we are, I think, as a society, waking up all around the world to the fact that these people have always been in power. And it's pretty scary that they've been in power, they're in charge of our military, psychological operations. So in 1986, regarding this guy, the San Francisco police began investigating allegations, not surprisingly, of sexual abuse in connection with the Army's Child Development Center, which is based in San Francisco. A girl came forward in 1987 and she identified him, Aquino, as the culprit. An investigation was launched. The police believed she was telling the truth, but they had to close the case because of insufficient evidence that was found. Even though she was able to describe the house where she was taken to, they said there was insufficient evidence. Now, it's worth noting that Michael Aquino was trained at Fort Huachuca. Yeah, Fort Huachuca, as we've now established, is the hub for intel operations. And there have been a lot of scandals that have happened at Fort Huachuca. And man, did we all endure and survive a psychological operation when Mitch Snow came and told us that he saw Brian Harpole and he saw Erica Kirk at Fort Huachuca in the days leading up to Charlie's assassination, different days. But man, we were going, what is happening? Why do we feel like the whole internet is screaming at us? Yeah, well, that's the home of Army intel psychological operations, and you should know that. Anyways, we now should discuss why it's just so hard for Turning Point USA to stay away. I showed you this chart from these trafficking connections, and you're just not going to believe a relationship that they are not severing. I just find it weird, like where they're having discussions about whether or not they should let Tucker speak on the stage. But I want to have discussions. Like if I'm a board member, I don't think they're going to consider me for it, but I'm open to it. Turning Point USA, I'm open to it. I'll shoot my shot. I would want to talk about some of these pastors that are welcomed onto the Turning Point USA stage. We'll talk about that more after a brief break. All right, you guys, I've spoken about Nimi Skincare before. It is what I use. It's a brand that I genuinely trust. The new year always comes with this pressure to change everything, new routines, new products, new rules. I think that mindset spills into skincare as well sometimes. People feel like they have to switch it up, throw out what works, and chase whatever's new. Well, I'm sticking with Nimi because it's clean, it's straightforward, and it's consistent. It does not change with the season, and neither do the values behind the brand. Every Nimi box has a hidden Bible verse within it. There's just a subtle touch that goes a long way for me personally, especially in the winter when your skin is dealing with cold air and dry heat. Consistency really matters more than novelty. And that's why I've stayed with Nimi Skincare. It's clean, it's made in America, and it's aligned with how I think about taking care of myself. You can learn more by visiting nimiskincare.com. And if you want to use my code Candace10 at checkout, you'll save 10% off your first order. That's NIMI skincare.com. Also want to tell you guys about the Wellness Company because the big medical hack of 2025 was several peer-reviewed studies identifying the direct connections between anti-parasitic medications and their off-label benefits of fighting a wide variety of cancers. And this makes perfect sense. The connection between tumor growth and parasites has been known for years. While the CDC remains silent, they have admitted that millions of Americans suffer from parasitic infections that often go undetected or undiagnosed, which is why Dr. Peter McCullough, who's the chief scientific officer over at the Wellness Company and the world's most published cardiologist, says, quote, these studies make a clear case to do at least one medical grade parasite cleanse annually, end quote. The Wellness Company's compounded ivermectin and mebendazole is a doctor-prescribed gold standard combination dose that is designed to help the body eliminate parasites. Each bottle contains 90 capsules, enough to complete 4 21-day cleanses. The Wellness Company makes the process fully digital as well, so it's very easy. You just fill out a quick intake form, doctor will review it, and your medical grade parasite cleanse will arrive in a week. So if you're looking to reset your health, visit twc.health/Candace and use code Candace at checkout, and you'll save $90 off plus free shipping. That is open to USA residents only. Again, that's twc.health/Candace and use code Candace at checkout. Now, I do not claim to be a public relations wizard. I don't do PR, certainly not. If you Google my name, you'll see. I don't care so much about it. But what I will say that is if a 94 TikTokers were out there making videos about me, accusing me of trafficking children from Romania, I would probably do my very best to stay away from the theme of trafficking and to stay away altogether from the theme of Romania. I just wouldn't even fly over the country for a little bit. But not Erica Kirk, because she's got Andrew Colvett as her PR. And he's like really smart, live texting people, getting caught, doing stuff behind the scenes, which is why she's soon going to be speaking with Greg Laurie's Harvest Church for Turning Point USA's Faith Make Heaven Crowded tour. Okay. I can show you that. I think we have that here on the website so you can see it. This is a real thing that's happening. And they're partnering with the Harvest Church to do this. It says that she is going to be speaking in, live streamed in Orange County. It's Harvest Orange County Church. Now, what's wrong with this? In case you are wondering or have not heard what is going on with Harvest Church and Greg Laurie, here's an article which tells us that Greg Laurie, there's been a number of lawsuits filed against Harvest Christian Fellowship, the founder, Greg Laurie, and also the churches related to alleged abuse of young men at a children's home in Romania. Okay, there's 12 lawsuits, actually. The original lawsuit was filed in September by 2 men claiming that Paul Havsgaard, he is a former pastor and a missionary at Harvest Christian Fellowship in Riverside, California. So that's that area where they're all from. Colvette's from there, that area. He's from Santa Barbara, actually. McCoys are from there. And they're alleging that he abused them at a children's shelter in Bucharest, Romania. The allegations include children being tied to radiators, being made to kneel down on walnut shells, being touched inappropriately, and being pimped out for sex. Now, the number of litigants, as I said, has risen to 12, and the law firm that's representing the survivors said in a news release that they're expecting 23 former residents of the home to bring complaints. The most recent complaints were filed in November. The court documents claim that Greg Laurie and the Harvest Christian Fellowship sent funding to Hav's card, which they obviously did send funding to him while he was there, and they were negligent in supervising him while he was there, despite reports of abuse. And so he's offering back that, oh, well, that's a pastor that we were funding. It's not the entire church. You know, it's not fair to come after the whole church for what Paul Havsgard is being alleged to have done. I'm saying this is just too many times for me. I don't know about you guys. I'm getting Romanian trafficking fatigue. Okay. I'm getting Ukrainian, Romanian trafficking fatigue. It just can't be that all of these military people that are adjacent to the military, go out there in a place where they're perfectly safe. Actually, they're quite immune to prosecution, because that's the deal that gets struck up between the governments, is like, you can do whatever you want on your base. And I'm going, what the heck is going on here? So I reached out to some people that I know, and I say, what is this strand? I don't know much about the military. Why does this keep happening? And what they told me, and this is also proven currently right now, a bunch of South Korean women have filed a unprecedented lawsuit against the United States military for the same thing, for running a brothel where they are stationed in South Korea. And so what they are telling me adds up. It's tracking. What they say is, okay, think of a military base. Anywhere in the world, you have a bunch of men who do not have regular access to women. So in those circumstances, and you also have a bunch of people that are, you know, at the top of that military who, I don't know, maybe could be a bit like Aquino, some satanic tastes. Anyway, they tell me is that they will typically send someone out who will be a woman. So think of like a Ghislaine Maxwell, to go out and to find them their interests, their tastes, young women that can be manipulated. That person will often describe themselves as a casting director, to go out there and to tell the women to come onto the base. Once they're on the base, anything can happen to them. Like I said, they are afforded no protections from their government, and our government is not going to prosecute the men that do anything on that base. That's how the typical deal works. And yeah, I don't know. Just like from a PR perspective, I'm not so concerned about why it is that Tucker Carlson, who just believes that we shouldn't get involved in wars, just like Charlie believed, is speaking at Turning Point USA. I am kind of concerned why all of these pastors who seem to be rehabilitating pedophiles are welcomed. Well, it just feels like a thing easily to say, we're just not right now, Greg Laurie, until we get to the bottom of whether or not your church was more involved. And these people are alleging, because it's interesting that he's not saying it didn't happen. He's saying, well, it's not the whole church, just this pastor. Anyways, we'll continue to follow that lawsuit, but I find that to be pointedly absurd. And this is Turning Point Faith in a nutshell, which I am an enemy of. But if you would like me to do your PR too, here, I'll shoot my shot. You can pay me. I'm definitely, I think, more capable of an Andrew Colbert at this, and I will tell you to just stop doing that. I'll just maybe just stop working with creepy pastors. That would be a start. Not a finish, but it could definitely be a start. Anyways, before we get into some of your comments, I do want to acknowledge the fact that Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, died 68. I mean, what a brave battle fought. He kept up his show every day as much as he could when he had the strength to. On X, we were all watching it, and he did say that he was coming to the Lord before he passed. He lost his battle with prostate cancer. He was just 68 years old. So it's very sad. And I think I shared with you, everyone has stories about him and in their political life. And I think about that magic of the Charlie Kirk moment and the Kanye tweet. And like I told you, watching Scott Adams explain it on a little whiteboard of what had happened when these two things were not supposed to happen. Entertainment is speaking, and politics. And now he's ripped a hole in the universe. And you know, so Scott Adams gets to see Charlie first, and he was a very honorable man. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. And for all of his loved ones that are going through this, it's very hard. Even if you're expecting it, it is very hard to go through. So say a prayer for Scott Adams and his family. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back. All right, you guys, with the new year, this is the perfect time to reset, not in some overcomplicated Pinterest perfect way, but by upgrading the things that you use every single day. Fresh sheets, luxe towels, quality pajamas, those small changes completely change how your home feels. That's why I love Cozy Earth. Their luxe bath towels are thick, soft, and they're actually absorbent. The viscous bamboo sheets feel like a 5-star hotel, but better. They're cool, breathable, and they're made for real sleep. Cozy Earth offers a 100-night sleep trial. You can try them out, and if you don't love them, you can return them hassle-free. But trust me, you're not going to want to return them. They also offer a 10-year warranty. Their pajamas are the softest pajamas that I've ever owned. They are also made from viscous bamboo, and they keep me warm and cool at the exact same time because they're breathable, they're soft, and they stay that way wash after wash. So you can start the new year off right and give your home the luxury that it deserves and make home the best part of your life. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code Candace for up to 20% off. Again, that's CozyEarth.com, code Candace at checkout. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention that you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Refresh your routines with comfort that makes every day feel like a new year. Also reminding you guys about American financing, because between groceries, travel, and higher prices, it is easy to feel overwhelmed, especially if you're already relying on credit cards to cover the basics. If that debt is piling up, you should know that you're not alone. If you're a homeowner, you might have considered reaching out to American Financing, but maybe hesitated because you didn't want to give up your low mortgage rate. Well, that's why American Financing created the Smart Equity Loan, which is a simple, smart way to get your finances back on track without giving up your low mortgage rate. Unlike a HELOC, which can fluctuate with the market, the Smart Equity Loan offers a fixed rate, so you'll have one predictable monthly payment. It lets you use your home's equity to pay off high interest debt, free up your cash flow, and still keep your existing mortgage intact. There are no upfront fees to find out if you qualify, so call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens, AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. Okay, you guys. I was very sad yesterday that I didn't have my mug, but it was actually just upstairs. It's cute, right? Conspiracy Girly. We have new merch on the website. You can also buy this mug in 2 different colors, or you can buy a hard copy of the autographed bundle. I have signed both of my books, and yeah, they're personally signed, so I don't use a stamp. Now available on the shop website. Make Him a Sandwich and Blackout. I'm going to read the top comment from last episode. It's from Sparkle Me Silly, writes, Israel calling out citizens in America by their name and labeling them their enemy is so disturbing. President Trump must put an end to this immediately. He won't. This needs to be taken seriously and action taken against these evil, ruthless invaders. If we allow such behavior from any foreign entity, then our government must take a stand to protect American citizens, no matter who it is. They're not going to do that. Nope. We are not going to be saved by the United States government. We are not going to be saved by the Loch Ness monster that.
Say goodbye to your current oil heating system. Put no money down on a brand new high efficiency heating system like this one we're installing right now.
No, it's me. I forgot to pull myself up again. Guys, my voice mostly survived. It mostly survived. Not a green hoodie, not a red hoodie, not a blue hoodie. Not a Texans fan. I saw somebody mentioning that I would wear a blue and red hoodie for the Texans. I don't own a blue and red hoodie. I own a blue hoodie. I own a red hoodie. I cannot wear them both. I guess I could sew them down the middle. But white hoodie, guys, welcome in. Welcome in. Baron Coleman here with you. Now on a more full-time schedule. Good evening to our grumblers. I forgot to say good evening to you guys yesterday. I pull you up on this screen, and I can watch your comments roll in. I don't know if they're behind, but they're still guessing hoodie colors. So, man, they're a little behind. It's not white. It's not gray. It's like what's somebody call it? A Nehru or something? I'm not sure what that is, but here it is. Yes, grumblers. I think you're behind. All right, I've got the microphone so high, it's blowing me out. I don't know if I can get it any higher. If it clips, let me know, because I keep cranking it up at your request. I can get it all up in my mouth if you need. I'm like, But anyway, all right, guys, we got a big show tonight. I cut more than half of the opening out. I guess I'll do it next time. Next time I do a show, I don't think it'll be tomorrow, probably Wednesday. I'll do the rest of what I was going to do for the opening at that time, because it just got too long. It was over 30 minutes. And I thought nobody wants to hear me ramble for 30 minutes. So I cut half of it out. I found a good stopping point, and I figured, you know what? E-Crew. That's it. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the program. YouTube, for whatever reason, because they don't have actual humans, everything's run algorithmically. So if you hit the like button, if you subscribe, if you share the broadcast with somebody and they click and like, if they click and watch, then it gets out into the ether. And and it helps the reach of the program. It really does. Helps the program grow, helps the program stay on air. So welcome in. Okay. We've got a lot to cover. I don't want to take a ton of time on an intro. I did come in 1 minute early. Someone in the comments said, can we come in early? Yeah, 1 minute. You get 1 minute early. I used to go at 7 every night, 7 Central. Then I started doing 6 because people said, oh, it's so late in Europe. Oh, we're in Europe and it's so late. And so I started going a little earlier. Tonight I couldn't make it earlier. So I had to do it. Back at 7 o'clock, back at my normal time. So that's what you get. Okay. I want to do the opening. I want you to understand that I will finish the opening tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever it is. But I think it's a really good stopping point. It is one of my favorite openings. It's one I've been wanting to do for a while. I haven't had the right time to bring it in. I finally had the right story to cover. So I thought, all right, now's the time to bring it in. And when I got done writing today, it was so long, it was ludicrous. So we'll get that under control. But welcome in again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Click notifications, and away you will be going. If you want to join the members page, maybe I'll do a quick member live tomorrow afternoon. Just like, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I'm not going to make it hours and hours, but if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to join us on the member side. I don't want to do little 15 and 30 minute just rambling hits because they don't get the reach. And then YouTube says, oh, people don't like his podcast anymore. And so they quit distributing it. So I've got to make the show, the 2 or 3 hour daily podcast. I've got to make that the thing that YouTube pushes out. All right. Let me get to the opening statement. Here we go. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, it's known as DARPA, was established in 1958. It was a response to the Soviet Union's Sputnik launch. It's beyond dispute that DARPA has long been at the forefront of cutting-edge military and technological innovation in the United States. DARPA's mission is to develop breakthrough technologies for national security, often pushing the boundaries of what is scientifically possible. From the origins of the internet to stealth aircraft to GPS, DARPA's projects have shaped modern life in profound ways. In the early 2000s, amid the post-9/11 era's heightened focus on intelligence gathering and predictive analytics, DARPA turned its attention to a particularly ambitious endeavor: convincing ordinary Americans to voluntarily opt in to having the military-industrial complex track their lives. To accomplish this, DARPA invented something called LifeLog. One word, LifeLog. LifeLog sought to create a comprehensive digital record of an individual's entire life, capturing every conceivable data point to build a searchable, analyzable database. LifeLog represented a convergence of artificial intelligence, data mining, and surveillance technology, embodying DARPA's ethos of radical innovation while raising profound ethical questions about privacy and human autonomy. LifeLog's conceptual roots can be traced back to earlier ideas in computing. It was influenced by pioneers like Gordon Bell. He was a Microsoft researcher who experimented with life-logging by wearing cameras and sensors to document his daily life. DARPA saw in his quirky behavior potential military applications. Bell's work in the 1990s and early 2000s involved creating personal digital archives, which aligned with DARPA's interest in enhancing human cognition and decision-making under stress. In May 2003, DARPA issued a broad agency announcement soliciting proposals for LifeLog. DARPA described it as a system to capture, store, and make accessible the flow of one's person's experience in and interactions with the world. The program was housed under DARPA's Information Processing Techniques Office, which focused on advanced computing and artificial intelligence. The core objective of LifeLog was to develop software and hardware capable of automatically logging vast amounts of personal data. This included geospatial locations via GPS, communications from emails, phone calls, and texts, media consumption in the form of web browsing and TV viewing, financial transactions, even biomedical signals like heart rate or stress levels from wearable sensors. The system would use algorithms to organize this data into a coherent narrative. It would identify patterns, predict future behaviors, and provide contextual insights. For military users, such as commanders and intelligence analysts, LifeLog could serve as an augmented memory tool, reducing cognitive overload in high-stakes environments. Imagine a soldier in the field recalling every detail of a mission briefing or predicting enemy movements based on historical patterns. LifeLog aimed to make this a reality. Technologically, LifeLog drew on emerging fields like machine learning, natural language processing, and sensor fusion. Developers were encouraged to integrate off-the-shelf hardware like PDAs, cameras, and microphones. Keep in mind, this was in the early 2000s. Those were a thing. These had sophisticated algorithms to process and index the data. The program envisioned a cognitive computing framework where the system would learn from the user's experiences, much like an intelligent assistant. DARPA allocated an initial budget in the tens of millions of dollars. The wild spending spree on this technology attracted interest from academia, defense contractors, and technology providers. Early demonstrations involved prototypes that captured audio, video, and location data with software to tag and search entries. The project's scope was massive. It involved handling petabytes of data per individual, requiring breakthroughs in storage, compression, and computation. Despite its innovative promise, LifeLog quickly attracted scrutiny. Privacy advocates and civil liberties groups, still reeling from revelations about DARPA's Total Information Awareness Program, later renamed Terrorism Information Awareness, saw LifeLog as another step towards a complete surveillance state.
Plus, later on in the show,
TIA, the Terrorism Information Awareness System, led by Admiral John Poindexter, aimed to mine vast databases for terrorism patterns and was defunded by Congress in 2003 among fears of mass domestic spying. Although DARPA insisted LifeLog was distinct and focused on consensual individual-level logging and not population-wide surveillance, critics argued the technologies could easily be repurposed. Media outlets like the New York Times highlighted the dystopian potential. A government-funded tool that could track a person's entire existence, raising Orwellian concerns about abuse. DARPA spokesperson Jan Walker emphasized that participation would be voluntary, but this did little to quell the fears of skeptical public in a post-Patriot Act America. Development progressed through 2003, with DARPA reviewing proposals and funding initial research. However, by early 2004, the program was facing mounting pressure. Budget reallocations within DARPA, combined with broader backlash against surveillance initiatives, sealed LifeLog's fate. On February 4th, 2004, DARPA canceled LifeLog. It cited a change in priorities. The agency provided no explanation. LifeLog. Insiders pointed to privacy concerns and political toxicity. And that was the end of the government's attempt to develop a program that invited the public to voluntarily sign up to have their entire lives documented. Or was it? Remarkably, this shutdown coincided with the exact date of the launch of a seemingly unrelated platform, Facebook. On the very same day that LifeLog was shut down by DARPA, February 4th, 2004, a Harvard sophomore named Mark Zuckerberg debuted thefacebook.com. This was a social networking site initially limited to Harvard students. What began as a college directory exploded into a global phenomenon, amassing billions of users and collecting unprecedented volumes of personal data, photos, relationships, locations, interests, interactions. This temporal coincidence has fueled persistent speculation about a deeper connection between LifeLog and Facebook. It's not hard to see the eerie parallels between LifeLog and Facebook. Both systems revolve around a comprehensive data logging to map human experiences and behaviors. LifeLog's goal of a searchable life database mirrors Facebook's evolution into a platform that timelines users' lives, predicts preferences via algorithms, and enables behavioral targeting. It's almost as if DARPA didn't truly abandon LifeLog at all. Rather, it looks a lot like they outsourced it to the private sector where constitutional restrictions on government surveillance don't apply, at least not as stringently. Facebook's early funding came from investors like Peter Thiel, the co-founder of the global tracking company Palantir. A CIA-backed data analytics firm was Facebook's first outside investor. Facebook's business model of harvesting user data for tracking purposes effectively achieves what LifeLog proposed, a voluntary, crowdsourced surveillance network. In essence, Facebook can be seen as the commercial incarnation of LifeLog's vision. While DARPA's program was curtailed by public oversight, Facebook operates in a regulatory gray area. It amasses data on a scale LifeLog could only dream of. Facebook, at present, has over 3 billion users in countries all over the world. It uses AI to analyze patterns in all ways that predict elections, influence opinions, and even detect mental health issues, all of which were outlined in LifeLog's predictive ambitions. This evolution raises uncomfortable questions about much of the technological development over the past couple of decades and the role of the United States federal government in playing the role the United States government is playing in outsourcing that growth to targeted companies. The core technology behind Google, for example, guys, I'm sorry, I have so many typos in this thing. I'm trying to read at the same time. I type so fast that I get typos. I do apologize. The core technology behind Google, for example, allegedly was created by founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page at Stanford University in the mid-1990s. Their original project was called PageRank. PageRank was the name of their algorithm. It ranked web pages by analyzing links. PageRank was primarily supported by a multi-million-dollar grant from the Digital Libraries Initiative, which was aimed at building searchable digital collections over the internet. The Digital Libraries Initiative is, as you guessed it, a DARPA project. Digital Libraries Initiative is a DARPA project in concert with the federally funded National Science Foundation and NASA. This federal funding from DARPA provided computational resources and paid for their time, leading to the prototype search engine that became Google in 1998. A lesser known but documented aspect involves indirect intelligence community ties. Brin's research, for example, received partial support through the massive Digital Data Systems Program coordinated by the CIA and the NSA via contractors and grants from the National Science Foundation. Like LifeLog and later Facebook, this MDDS program sought to create intelligence tools for analyzing large data sets and tracking patterns in online behavior for national security purposes. Sergey Brin reportedly briefed intelligence representatives periodically on progress. In 2003, the CIA's venture capital arm, known as In-Q-Tel, funded a small mapping startup known as Keyhole. Google later acquired Keyhole the next year in 2004, transforming it into Google Earth. The CIA's In-Q-Tel representatives actually joined Google for a short time after the acquisition. The pattern can be found repeating over and over in what looks like the private sector. Private companies with massive amounts of control over our lives getting their start or getting a significant boost to their start from government intelligence communities. Amazon, for example, it may have started in Jeff Bezos's garage, but it's probably no coincidence that Jeff Bezos's grandfather worked for ARPA, which later became DARPA. He didn't just work for ARPA, he actually helped found ARPA back in 1958. Amazon might not have been directly founded by DARPA, but I'm sure the family relationship with one of DARPA's key founders didn't hurt the cause.
Spectrum Mobile helps us stay connected because when I'm on the road, we can't go to bed without seeing each other's face.
The CIA made Amazon the largest cloud computing company on Earth. with a $600 million windfall to provide cloud storage and computing services for the CIA. DARPA itself almost immediately began migrating its workloads to Amazon's cloud service shortly after the deal with the CIA. DARPA's also funded other Jeff Bezos programs like Blue Origin, his space company. It should be noted that all of these companies, Facebook, Google, and Amazon, are able to exist at all because of DARPA's work creating the internet itself. And sometime soon, this is the second half I'm not getting to tonight, sometime soon, I want to take a look at a subject I've been digging around in over the last few weeks. We all know Charlie Kirk was neutralized at Utah Valley University, and we've since learned just how embedded the intelligence community is at Utah Valley University. Very early on, a connection was made also between the intelligence community at Utah State University. That's the university where Tyler Robinson attended for one semester before withdrawing. I don't believe we'll have time to get into that tonight, but we'll probably look at it later this week or at a show coming up very soon. Tonight, I want to take a look at something Candace Owens said in her podcast earlier this evening. It was quick. It was quick. It was one line she threw out. And I want to pull it up and I want to play it. One line. And I don't even know if she caught what she said, but I caught it. And she said she sent Andrew Colvett a text about a dream she had where Charlie said something happened to his left. We've talked on this show at length about things that happened to Charlie's left. I didn't know until this evening she had that dream or sent that text, so we'll review it tonight and connect a few dots. But first, I want to take a look at Tyler Boyer's detailed statements on a wide range of issues, including whether he believes the Fed slop narrative, whether he's a sexual deviant, whether TPUSA is a human trafficking organization, whether there are millions of dollars being embezzled, his thoughts on Erica Kirk as CEO and as mother in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, and more. He gave a wide-ranging interview that aired this afternoon, and that is why I am an hour late, because I was watching it, eagerly anticipating perhaps shifting at the last second to cover that. And I am going to do that tonight because I think it's incredible, the breadth of what he covered. But I think it's more important, even more important than what he did say, is what he did not say. There were a number of questions, and I will get to them at the end. I will get to all of these questions at the end. I counted 11 topics he did not get questioned on. 11. The reality is, it's probably 111 that I would have rather had him talk about than what he did talk about. So we'll examine a little bit of what he did talk about. He rambled, he filibustered, but we'll get to it. Well, I'm not going to be rude. The man spoke, and if I'm going to criticize what he didn't say, I at least have to show what he did say. So let me get with this. He was on a podcast called Ladder Daily Saints. It's a Mormon podcast, I'm assuming based out west somewhere, Arizona, Utah, Idaho. Those seem to be heavily populated Mormon states. We're huge in Arizona, so I'm assuming we have some Mormons in the audience. Now, maybe you guys, because I have one question that I was not aware of at all. And I have one question I've got to ask towards the end of this interview. He drops this random line about something on his Mormon mission in Russia. And I thought, wait, what did he say? I had to rewind it like 4 times. He said it so fast. And so if there are Mormons in the audience, I might call on you to help me out. Or if there are Mormon experts, I might call on you to help me out. But first, I want to get right into it because this is a wide-ranging interview. So I have several clips queued up, like 9 different clips I want to get to. 9 different clips I want to get to. So I have to kind of move pretty quickly to get through all these. I am going to, because they are all pretty boring, I'm going to up the playback speed to 1 1/4. That should save us a little bit of time. So this first question, he is asked, essentially, do you believe the Fed slop narrative relative to Charlie Kirk's passing? This is an interesting answer. It comes out of the gate in the first few minutes of the podcast.
Get into it. Candace, she's explained from the beginning that one of her motivations in, diving so deeply on this is because she personally doesn't trust the FBI narrative that's currently out there that Tyler Robinson was a lone conspirator, that it was, motivated by leftist ideologies and stuff, and that he used the Mauser 30-06 and acted alone and stuff like that. And so I'm curious, like, not just from like the Turning Point standard, but like from you, do you feel that the current narrative of what the Federal Bureau of Investigation has come out with, do you feel confident that they are on the right track with that?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that this is a state level investigation. So local authorities are the ones that are running point on this murder investigation. And so I want to first start off by saying that anything that I've seen where people are, trying to ignite, I think, the internet to be upset about how this is going, quote unquote, I'll use air quotes, how this is going, are people who are, questioning usually the federal government, which, again, I totally empathize with. We at Turning Point, we run an organization where we say, hey, the government is questionable. There's a lot of things that are not to be trusted. And, coming out of 4 years of Joe Biden.
All right. I wanted to play this for a particular reason, because I wanted you to get a feel for what I had to suffer through for 2 hours.
Why I get triggered when someone gives me unsolicited advice. When I was younger,
I wanted you to get a feel for what I had to suffer through for 2 hours. First, the guy on the right is Tyler Boyer in the One Nation Under God hat. He is the former COO of Turning Point USA. He's been there for, close to a decade now, I think. He's been there a long time. He was there when Candace Owens was there. He was there he's still there. He's still there right now. He and Candace Owens Candace has had some issues with him, but I wanted to play this because I'm a big fan, and it might be the lawyer in me. It might be the way I prep people to answer questions. It might be the way I prefer to answer questions. And I'm sure my friends and family get frustrated when I ask questions and demand a yes. If I ask you a yes, no question, I will give you time to explain it, but I need the yes or no up front. The question was, do you believe the Fed slop narrative? We're like a minute into his answer, and he hasn't answered it yet. Yes, he's the former COO. He is no longer the COO. We'll cover that in just a second. You remember the Doge letter that Charlie Kirk drafted on September 2nd, 8 days before he was neutralized at Utah Valley University. That Doge letter removed Tyler Boyer as COO, as Chief Operating Officer, and elevated Justin Strife to COO. That happened in that Doge letter. Now, the fact that he won't answer the question, and he'll get to some semblance of an answer here in a second, but he never gives a yes or a no. I'm going to keep playing it, but he never gives a yes or no. Just listen carefully for an answer.
It's understandable why a lot of people would question the intelligence agencies. Kind of where my headspace is there is an investigation under that's being carried out right now. There's a ton of evidence that again, one of my good friends, Jack Posobiec, has pointed to pretty religiously that shows the involvement of Tyler Robinson. Pretty religiously that shows the involvement of Tyler Robinson, who they apprehended. But the big question that most people have asked is said, well, where did he come from? What is his motivation and everything else? That's all part of the murder investigation.
So a couple of things. One is he defers to Jack Posobiec, who is an on-the-record dishonest character as far as I'm concerned. Jack Posobiec is going around. He put on Twitter, I saw a leftist murder Tyler Robinson, or something to that effect, something very close to that. I don't remember the exact words. No, he didn't. Nobody saw that. No, he didn't. No, nobody saw that. Jack Posobiec has talked about this mountain of evidence that exists against Tyler Robinson. Well, Candace Owens talks to Erica Kirk and the new COO, Justin Strife, and says, do you have any evidence that we don't have? And they said, no, we just have what's in the charging document. So the fact that Tyler Boyer is deferring to Jack Posobiec, who is a known propagandist in this whole issue, is very deeply concerning. And the only thing he ended on, the only thing he kind of said is, there seems to be a lot of evidence that he was involved. Tyler Robinson was involved. Well, that wasn't the question. The question is, do you believe the Fed slop narrative? The Fed slop narrative is that Tyler Robinson climbed A staircase that led to a roof, laid down on the roof in a prone position, took a single round from a 30-06 and took Charlie Kirk down with it. That is the question. Do you believe that? Not do you believe he was tangentially involved. Not do you believe he has some moral culpability or legal culpability. And the fact that he won't answer it, ladies and gentlemen, I am tempted to say he doesn't believe it. If that's the case, Tyler, welcome to the club. I don't either. I don't believe it either. You don't believe it? I don't believe it. Now, I am putting words in your mouth, but I'm putting words in your mouth that I feel like are well earned. I do feel like they're well earned.
We've laid out what is publicly accessible to everyone. And by the way, there's no difference between what I've seen and what the average citizen has seen. Is, there's all of this evidence that's pointing directly and making a strong case for an individual that's been accused of murder. And we don't know all the other surrounding pieces of evidence that could come out as part of this investigation. And those are going to be relayed over the course of the next number of months ahead that best put authorities in the position to go after the proper suspects. And
yes or no? Do you believe that Tyler Robinson laid on the roof and took a shot? I mean, it's honestly, Andrew, not Andrew. I apologize, Andrew. I know you're a fan of the program. Tyler, I think you're a fan of the program too. You said a couple things that made me think you watch, or at least have seen clips. So welcome in at TPUSA. Welcome in. I am going to give you guys a little bit of a hard time tonight, but I think I will be fair. And let me say right off the bat, we're only one question in. I can't listen to you filibuster any longer, though. I will never get through it if I have to play you filibustering every question all night. But I will say this. I have personally called on TPUSA to be more transparent, to be more open, to answer questions more appropriately. I have personally called on you guys to do this. And I think this interview was an attempt to do that. I say attempt because I don't think it was very successful, but that doesn't mean you don't get better with reps. If I was on the Today Show, I had to host the Today Show, I wouldn't be very good at it at day one. Give me 1,000 episodes, I'll do a lot better. I may never be a great. I may never be Matt Lauer.
Webster Store.
30 chairs, non-squeak.
Webster Store.
15 non-wobbly tables.
Webster Store.
Regis Philbin. Was he on the Today Show? He was on something. I may never be of that caliber, but I would get better over time. I think this was frankly, a pretty lousy first effort at answering questions, Tyler. You could do a lot better. But I hope this is kind of a thinly watched podcast stream here. I hope this is your first effort at going and doing this again, because I think you would get better with time. The first piece of advice I would give you is answer the question. Answer the question. This will be a recurring theme. I'm not giving him a hard time I'm not tearing him down on his first question he tried to answer, and then you'll see how he just knocks it out of the park the rest of the time. It's not the case. All right. Question remains on, believe it or not, we're like 3 minutes past where I just left, but the question remains, do you believe the Fed slap narrative? The guy at the top left, the host, I can't remember his name, I get the feeling he doesn't believe it. Sorry, did not mean to hit the microphone with the notes. I get the feeling he doesn't believe it. In fact, he says as much later. The guy in the bottom left, I don't know what he believes because he only says like 3 sentences the whole podcast. If you recognize the guy at the bottom left, we have featured him before on this very program. He was the guy who got locked in the office from the school counselor. And they were telling him he was in danger and going to be killed because he was a witness to the Charlie Kirk shooting. You remember that guy? That's him. That's him on the bottom left. Apparently, he's so terrified from that experience, he doesn't speak because he says almost nothing the entire program. But let me continue here, or we'll never get through this. This is about the ballistics and the guns. Do they believe the ballistic possibility that a 30-06 might have taken down Charlie Kirk? To the host's credit, although I am a little critical of him, and I'll be more critical at the end, that he did not ask very many good questions, this one actually is pretty good.
and the 30-06 that was allegedly used in the committing of the crime. Have you looked much into that? Does that sit right with you? Do you know much about ballistics and guns and stuff like that?
Yeah, fortunately, I mean, I personally have some of my own thoughts around it.
Mm-hmm.
With all of that, what I can say is that, and I want to put this into perspective for anyone that's listening, especially in Utah. I mean, this is quite literally, and again, it pains us to talk about this, but this is one of the most photographed, most videoed murders in American history. I mean,
Tyler, he asked you a question. Do you believe the 30-06 took him down? That's it. That's it. It's a yes/no question. Do you believe it? He even started the answer. He said, I have my personal thoughts on it. Well, yeah, no doo-doo, Sherlock. That's why we had you on the program, to answer questions. We specifically want to know what your personal opinions are. I mean, that's the whole question was, do you believe it? In your opinion. That was the whole question.
As much so to put that into perspective, this isn't like a situation where there were no cameras around. There were more cameras in the vicinity. There were so many individuals that were recording in real time. All of that has been compiled and utilized in the apprehension of the murder suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And so for people,
what does that have to do with the caliber of the weapon and whether or not it's possible that a 30-06 stopped in the middle of his neck? What does that have to do with it? Here's what I think it has to do with it. And this is why I think he's not answering it. I'm going to put words in his mouth here. I don't think he believes it. In fact, I don't think he believes it because I think, in my opinion, I believe he knows it's not true, which is why he's deferring to all the other witnesses. Oh, it's one of the most photographed things of all time. Well, that's great. Do you believe a 30? I mean, I hate to harp on a host, but why didn't you ask him a follow-up? Like, hey, I asked you a question, you didn't answer. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Like, I asked you if you believed it. You told me you had an opinion. What is that opinion? Do you believe it? They're appealing to the many other videos because that was the plan all along. You guys asked, why did they do this in public? You're seeing why they did this in public. So that they could sell the gunshot narrative, blame the 3,000 people there for thinking it was a gunshot, and have them run and start to multiply like fishes and loaves. Multiply the story over and over and over. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Tyler, Mr. Boyer, are you in fact a sexual deviant? I mean, I'll give the host credit. I would have trouble asking this one. I hope there was a pre-interview. I really genuinely hope there was a pre-interview, and he knew this was coming. I understand. I'm not playing it. This guys. Oh my gosh. One day, I'm going to get a show right. One day you're going to come in here and you're going to get the show you deserve. One day you are going to walk out of here and you're going to go, you know what Barron gave us today? He gave us an absolute beauty of a show. There's not one time he intended to share video and it did not go out over the air. There's not one time. Not one time. That'll happen one day. I'm not sure when. I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to get there. Here I am banging on this guy for being a lousy guest his first time talking on the air about all this. And then I follow it up. I follow it up with you guys staring at the side of my head while I watch it. Here, just guys, if you would, just please, just, I'll go ahead and enjoy it. You guys just watch. I do apologize. I would say it won't happen again, but it very likely might happen again. All right, let me back up. Back to your sexual deviancy, sir.
She made some pretty bold allegations against you, and she has repeated several times that one of the reasons that she, quote unquote, doesn't trust you, I guess, is because she labels you as this sexual deviant. And we'll just play the clip just so people have a context of, this is kind of one of the first like allegations, as far as I've been able to see, that she kind of threw out about you. So Brandon, if you want to roll that.
Also, another person who wrote us was telling me the story about Tyler Boyer's involvement in like Maricopa County politics in general. Like, what did he do before in Arizona? And yeah, it's just the kind of stories that he said he approached him several times about embezzlement. You know, not Charlie Tyler was hooking up with young male interns.
I don't know if you caught it. I wanted to play this for a reason. I got to make two observations. One is Tyler Boyer is the most hydrated human being on the planet. I don't know how many of those bottles of water he pounds during this interview. I mean, it's unbelievable how many bottles of water this guy plows through. Every time there's a situation, he throwing back that Aquafina. But I want you to watch the twinkle in his eye. You got to pay close attention. If you're in front of a TV, get up close. No, it's not good. They're all consuming beverages at this point. Not the best face he's ever been paused on. But I want you to watch, because when she says, don't just listen to her. Don't watch her. Watch him. Watch Tyler Boyer, the guy in the middle. When she says young male interns, see if there's not a little twinkle in his eye, like, ooh. You know, like someone's on a diet, right? And they know they're not getting a Twinkie. But when you say Twinkies, they go, ooh. Like it has an effect on them. I swear I saw that when she said young male interns. Like thoughts went just swimming through his brain, and he couldn't help himself. He's like, ooh. He had a moment. Just watch it again. You got to see it. It's his left eye. Watch the twinkle.
Embezzlement. You know, not Charlie Tyler was hooking up with young male interns, or young.
Did you see the twinkle? It was there. Young interns, young male interns, twinkle. One more time. I'm having too much fun with this. I will move on after this, but you gotta see it. Left eye when she says young interns, but young male interns. He didn't need the water anymore at that point, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. Watch it one more time.
Embezzlement. You know, not Charlie Tyler was hooking up with young male interns, or young male workers, and he didn't even care. He's like, I would go on record because all this happened, and I had the proof that all this happened, and everybody knows about Tyler Boyer at Turning Point USA. It's like an absurdity. But this is the person that is putting people into places of power at Turning Point USA. Also,
so she presents it as if it's this foregone conclusion, like, oh yeah, everybody just knows this. And then on Twitter, I saw one time that you posted a tweet and she responded to it like, Tyler, you and your wife are swingers. And so I guess the questions that I have is, where do you think that these allegations are coming from? Have people alleged this about you before? And like, is there any truth to any of this at all?
Now, let me give the host props. That's a very legitimate question. Now, he didn't call him out on the twinkling of the eye. I would have had trouble holding that back. I'd be like, whoa. Stop the tape. Tyler, why are your eyes twinkling? Why are your eyes twinkling when they say young male interns? But I'll be honest, it was a legitimate question. While they were talking, I went and got my introduction to Logic book. That was a real low Joe move there, playing the clip without sharing it with you guys. So I'm gonna tidy up a little bit. I gotta tighten up. This is unacceptable. You guys expect a high IQ outfit. All right, let me get it to his answer, because would you believe it that he doesn't just come right out and answer the question? Just wait for this filibuster. It's amazing.
So there is, straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Hey, you've been accused of being a sexual deviant and having your way with young male interns. What say you? Well, what had happened was, he's even looking like he's at a smoky bar there, like his eyes don't open all the way. Anyway, I thought that was a funny, a funny opening. I don't think he was expecting quite the hammer of a question. But here we go.
Candace has said this numerous times, and this has come from, and I'll kind of explain this hopefully to your audience so people understand it. That I
Hold on, I got to run a clock on him. But how long has it taken him to say no? I don't have my way with young male interns at the office. I got to go back and get the exact timestamp. So apologize for playing it again.
Think that these allegations are coming from? Have people alleged this about you before? And like, is there any truth to any of this at all?
New year, new trends, new diets, new routines. But the fads.
It's at 21:17 where he's thrown the question. By 21:19, I would give him 2 seconds. By 21:19, I would have said, hell no, there's no truth to this. Like, no, absolutely not. Zero truth. Next question. So let's, I got to write it down. I don't want to miss the time. 21:17. All right, let's see when he finally gets around to answering it. Let's hear him stammer. Let's hear him filibuster.
So there is, straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Candace has said this numerous times, and this has come from, and I'll kind of explain this hopefully to your audience so people understand it, that I'm gay, that I have some kind of, secret gay life that I live. This isn't unique to me. This is something that's pretty commonly said by the establishment in general that attacks political enemies pretty commonly. So just so that you guys are aware, and you wouldn't believe this, but I think the next week, right after that, or a couple weeks later, another individual came out and said that Charlie was gay or secretly gay, that other people were gay. This is like the textbook, just try to, Alinsky somebody's character with absolutely no factual basis whatsoever. And, it's actually pretty damaging what was said here, because obviously that's never happened. I'm not gay.
There it was. All right. Obviously that never happened. I wasn't gay. Unfortunately for Mr. Boyer, it took him 1:09 to get to it. 1:09 to work up the courage to say, nah, it wasn't me, bro. I didn't do it. 1:09. 4 giant gulps. 373 Gary Blinks. Go. I believe you, Tyler. I believe you. I don't think you're gay. I wonder why it took you 1:09 to say it. But I believe you.
3 kids and, a wife that I've been married to for the entire time. I was married previously. My son is from a previous marriage. And so there's like the speculation, I think, when, when people become obsessed with you, they start asking, you all sorts of questions. People make up rumors. They do really nasty stuff. And like I said, they've done that to many people, including Charlie himself. This happened to pretty frequently.
I don't know, guys. I defer that to you guys. I leave that to our humble audience. I might even drop a poll in here. Let me drop a little poll in here because I don't know what to make of this. I honestly don't know. Let me drop a little poll. There we go. Let me drop a poll in here. I've got to know kind of what your thoughts are. Start a poll. Do you believe Tyler's answer to the deviant question? In your opinion. We'll keep everybody covered. All right, there you go. You got yourself a poll up there. I'm going to go ahead and select my answer, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay, so let's let that run for a little while. We'll come back and check on that here in just a little bit. But I have never in my life seen somebody take 1:09 to answer a question so easy to answer. No, I wouldn't even have said a word. I wouldn't have said they attacked Charlie. I wouldn't have said this is a common. You know why it's a common attack in political circles? Anybody want to guess why it's a common attack in political circles? Why it's a common attack over at TPUSA? Anybody want to guess? I won't spoil the surprise. I won't tell you. I'll let you figure it out yourselves. Yes, he got Alinsky. That's his answer. He got Alinsky. Whatever that means. That's interesting. Okay. This is an interesting point here. He raises this, I believe, on his own. Let me pull this back up. He answers this on his own, ladies and gentlemen. He raises this, I think, on his own.
Right? It's right. You say something and then you don't follow it up with anything. But that's not the only thing that's been said that's harmful or untrue. I mean, there's wild accusations and people, again, that have been on the internet saying things that we've engaged or I've engaged in child trafficking, for example. That that there are people that they're getting my name confused with Tyler Robinson, so they see Tyler and they see Tyler. This is how low level and kind of idiotic some of this stuff is, right?
Why would you raise that? Well, like, that seemed really weird and out of place. If you watch this whole thing, and normally I would recommend you watch the whole thing, but it's really hard to watch. Like, it is inane. It is absolutely inane. But it's wild. I'm talking about wild, guys. Wild that he brings this stuff up. All right, now I'm going to fast forward here, and I want to first, before I fast forward, I'm going to fast forward, and then I'm going to lower this and bring in another screen here, because we have a document that Charlie Kirk sent out 8 days before he passed away. This is the famous Doge letter. It's here. I don't know if I can make it large enough for you guys to read it at home, but I'm going to read you the relevant paragraph. I already told you that he had elevated Justin Strife to the COO position that was formerly occupied by Tyler Boyer, who we've been watching. But here is the key paragraph, and I want you to listen to his response in a moment to the Doge question relative to what Charlie Kirk actually said in the Doge letter itself. I don't know if he thinks we can't see it, if we haven't seen it, if he doesn't know that we don't have a copy of it. But here's what it says. This is Charlie Kirk talking. I've empowered Justin, among other priorities, to engage in an organizational-wide Doge effort. Justin will be assembling a small team to assist in the effort, which is focused on Turning Point USA. One, becoming more efficient. Two, becoming more cost-effective. Three, unifying organizational success around company-wide metrics and goals. And four, this is the important one in my opinion, reshaping company culture. Reshaping company culture. Now, I raised this letter in light of the answer the non-answer we just got, the 9-second filibuster we just got around culture. Like interns and former COOs. I don't know. So let's go back to Mr. Boyer. Let's hear his answer on what it was Charlie really intended when he was talking about Doge. Don't read his silly word. Don't look at what Charlie actually wanted to accomplish. Let's just focus on Tyler's version of the story.
Thank you for explaining that. And yeah, I guess this kind of leads into, everyone saw that internal memo that was sent out by Charlie on September 2nd, talking about the new COO of Turning Point USA, Justin, and that he was instigating this initiative to do a Doge style audit to be more financially efficient and to kind of root out wasted costs and stuff like that. And a big question that I myself have had is, with that being kind of one of the last main things that it looked like Charlie was wanting to do in the company, is that something that has been carried out or is ongoing, that type of Doge style, more in-depth audit of TPUSA?
So the reason he's asking the question, the reason we're all asking the question is, Charlie raises the idea of a Doge-style audit, and then we're told it was canceled. We're told, no, he doesn't want to do the audit. We're given excuses like, well, he doesn't audit every year. We have our books financially audited every year. Well, the federal government has accounting practices in place, but when Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk were hired to come in and run Doge, the idea was that the traditional accounting practices of the federal government weren't sufficient to root out the culture of corruption. They weren't sufficient to go through and look at all the waste, fraud, and abuse. That was the whole idea behind Doge. That's why Charlie put it in quotes, a Doge effort, meaning we're going to root out the waste, fraud, and abuse. Here is how, well, I got to pull him back up. Here is how Tyler Boyer answers it.
So I just want to make sure this is super clear. So I was CEO of Turning Point USA up until about 3.5 years ago, when I separated my job out into about 4 different people at Turning Point USA, Justin being one of those people. And so Justin had just been made, COO about 3.5 years after I left that role, as I've been CEO at Turning Point Action since then. So I just want to make something super clear. This is that the memo that you're talking about was intended by Charlie and Justin to be an extremely positive memo that, again, nobody had ever anticipated that Charlie would get murdered the next week. Charlie was, and again, you just mentioned something that is not true, right? It didn't say a Doge audit. That's not what it said actually on it. It said that there was that Charlie loved the idea of Doge because of efficiency, not because of like, hey, we have a bunch of waste. Turning Point's never been a wasteful organization. We've never. I think if he thought that was going to go public everywhere, and would have been cast in a light, if that Charlie would have been cast in a light that he was being wasteful and that his organization was being wasteful, he'd be extremely offended by that. He would be on your podcast right now, being like, "You are stupid to think that I was running an organization that was wasteful and that I was trying to Doge myself." Like,
if the organization wasn't wasteful, what efficiency is he trying to find? That's the whole time he was talking. I was thinking, wait a minute. He's asking for a Doge effort, not a Doge audit, but he's saying a Doge effort. All right. Department of Government Efficiency. I'm going to appoint Justin Strife COO. Justin Strife is going to go through and look for efficiency. And what you're saying is there was no waste. There was no fraud. There was no abuse. So if you're running a lean, mean, efficient machine, why the need for a Doge effort? It doesn't make sense. The answer is nonsensical. And again, he doesn't answer the question. The question was, is that effort ongoing? Not, was it not necessary? Not, was it duplicative of everything we already do? The question was, it was a very specific question. Charlie wanted a Doge effort. Is there a Doge effort ongoing?
Like that doesn't even like add up. People I think generally understand that Charlie's a pretty smart dude, and so to put it in that light, I think it's probably the strongest mischaracterization that's the case.
And if you don't believe it, then you're disrespecting the dead. You're urinating on Charlie Kirk's grave. That's his message. That's his message. If you don't believe that Charlie Kirk ran a supremely efficient machine with no waste, fraud, and abuse, then you might as well take a steamer right on his headstone. Like, what kind of answer is that? Why did he send the letter? If his operation was that smooth, that efficient, why bother sending the letter? He still has not answered, by the way. We are now at 1 minute and 50 seconds since the question was put to him, and he's not yet answered. Is the effort underway?
He was obsessed with the concept of Doge from the standpoint of efficiency.
Yeah.
And what you have to look at and understand about Turning Point and our entire history is that we line up with a school calendar. So our fiscal calendar lines up with an academic calendar, which ends. So our fiscal calendar ends in June, and our new fiscal calendar starts in July. So every year that I've known Charlie, first off, we hold our own internal audits every year. You have to, as an organization of our size, when you're reporting to the IRS. So every single one of the Turning Point organizations has to audit ourselves. That's not like Nancy. We have a large organization. You have to get into the weeds on everything, every individual thing. Charlie signed off on every single one of those audits every year. His interest in Doge and the concept of Doge was the efficiency part, which is that every year that we come out of those audits and everything else, that first semester, if you will, because that's how we think in Turning.
I'm not going to dignify this by continuing to play it. I will spoil the surprise. He doesn't answer it. He does not answer it. He does not say whether or not there's a Doge effort underway at TPUSA presently. All he keeps saying is, no, he was just fascinated with efficiency. You know, Charlie, silly Charlie. Charlie was like a 39. We talked about it yesterday. Charlie was a 39. And a 39, ladies and gentlemen, they get something in their head. They just can't let it go. They're out here counting matchsticks, counting cards at the casino, looking for Judge Wapner every day. You know, that's how that's basically what he's saying. Charlie just couldn't get off the idea of efficiency. He just loved efficiency. Now, I want to get to what I think was the most interesting part of the entire conversation. He raises the question, the host raises the question about Erica Kirk's leadership role at TPUSA and whether or not this is consistent. And it sounds to me like the host perhaps agrees with me that it was not consistent at all, not remotely consistent with Erica Kirk's statements before Charlie Kirk passed away. I want you to guess whether or not Tyler actually answers the question. Oh, where are we on our poll? Let me look at my poll real quick. We have 3,493 votes. It is 91% no. Do you believe Tyler's answer to the deviant question, in your opinion? In your opinion, do you believe it? No. We're over 3,500. And it's 91% no. Only 9% of you guys believe it. I'm ending the poll. That was fun. That was fun. Maybe we'll get to another poll down the road. 3,500 people. Almost nobody believes it. But here's the interesting question. Let's get to his answer. Actually, let's get to the host question because he sets it up really, really nicely.
You know, the routes that Turning Point has taken after in terms of leadership and whatnot. There's a clip that you probably have seen, but Brandon, if you want to pull it up there, of Charlie and Erica on the Charlie Kirk show, and they're kind of talking about, women pursuing careers and how to organize priorities and stuff like that. And then seeing, what has kind of happened in the aftermath of Erica taking, position as CEO. I want to roll this clip and then kind of hear your thoughts a little bit more about it.
It shows that married women with kids are the happiest. Why do you think that is? I mean, it's just nature. I mean, just becoming a CEO of a shoe company is not going to give you happiness.
Women have it so mixed up. You can have a career after children, but if you try to have a career while you have your kids, there is no such thing as balance. That is such a myth. I can't spend half of the day doing one thing. I missed out half of that time with being with the kids. So you have to choose where your heart has to be fully with the home. You have to make that decision on your own, but you can always, after your kids are in school or after they're in high school, you can always go back to work. You can always find a way to get back into the workforce. But if you miss those precious first few years, that is so hard to make up because memories are so much more important than an added paycheck. And
probably the most awkward moment of the entire interview. I want to pull up. Look at Tyler right now. Look at him. Look at the body language. He can't even look up. He can't even look up. He's been looking up the whole time. Now, he's been sucking down water. He's been filibustering and stammering. He's been refusing to answer for 1:09 if he's a sexual deviant. But when it comes to, hey, is Erica doing the right thing here by running Turning Point USA, relative to her position before Charlie passed away? He can't even look up. Here's his answer.
Awesome. So after seeing that and then seeing, so quickly after Charlie's assassination, her being put into the CEO position, can you maybe shed a
still not looking up, by the way,
little light on, what went into that whole transition process? And is she, really super involved in the day-to-day? And what was the thinking behind putting her as kind of the new face of Turning Point?
Well, look, I'll just address this first by saying, Erica is one of the strongest people. I mean, anyone that's a widow in any circumstance, the scriptures say this, I think just as normal.
All right, let's go back one more time and listen to the call of the question.
As kind of the new face of Turning Point.
Well, look, I'll just address this first by saying, Erica is one of the strongest people. I mean, anyone that's a widow in any circumstance, the scriptures say this, I think just as normal human beings, as men in particular here, is that you should look after widows. Mm-hmm. You should be, we should be, people attacking a widow. And again, it doesn't really matter what's the level of spotlight they have. the broken heart that she has, the pressure, the amount of pressure that just from losing her husband is one thing.
I got to ask you a legitimate question. Is asking Erica or asking Tyler, is she living up to her own standards? Is that attacking her? You know, like if somebody comes out there and says, I don't do drugs. Like that's just I don't do drugs. And then you catch them like snorting blow off the back of a toilet in a bar. And they're not living up to their own standards. And you say, hey, wait a minute. Your whole shtick is that you don't do drugs. And here you are doing drugs. Is that attacking that person? Are you attacking that person? Or are you suggesting that you said you live by a certain standard and you're not living up to it? I don't think that's attacking her. I think it's pointing out something very obvious, which is you seem to have a clear-cut position prior to Charlie Kirk's passing, and that was you cannot be an effective mother and have a job that requires you to travel an extensive amount, requires you to be away from home for an extensive amount. Now, I'm not the one saying that. I'm not the one saying that at all. But she did. She did. That's not me attacking her. That's me saying, hey, wait a minute. You said this is a requirement, and now you're not living up to this.
Mm-hmm. Charlie, for better or for worse, was the person who repeatedly said, if anything ever happens to me, I'd like to see Erica kind of continue the mission.
Has anyone seen evidence of that? I'm sorry, I have something in my mouth, and I know that's disgusting, but my throat is just crushed. And I bought these lemon honey drops off of Amazon because they could be here today. But has anyone heard those words out of Charlie's mouth? I hope Erica takes over if something happens to me. Has anyone seen a memo or an email or a text message from Charlie to that effect? Because they're putting that word in his dead mouth. And I've not seen it. The only words I saw was Charlie sitting there while Erica said, you can't be an effective mother while working at that capacity. That's the only thing I heard. I never heard, that would have been a good time for him to say, well, yeah, that's true, Erica, except if something happens to me, I would like you to take over Turning Point. But other than that, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. No, that never happened.
To see her do the work that I do. Why? Because, I think, obviously outside of carrying his name, and his heart and the passion that, she understood it better because she spent, outside of probably myself, Erica probably spent more time with Charlie one-on-one than any other person on this planet. And so, in the few short years that they had together as a married couple, but prior to that, they dated extensively through that, and he trusted her fully, 100%. So,
I'm not buying this revisionist history. If he truly traveled 300 days a year, how did she spend more time with him than the people he traveled with? Wouldn't Brian Harpole have spent more time with him? Wouldn't Andrew have spent more time with him? Wouldn't Mikey McCoy have spent more time with him? Wouldn't it make sense that they would have a better claim to knowing the reality rather than Erica herself? I'm just telling you guys, this doesn't add up. None of these answers are adding up. This one in particular is particularly lousy. But that's his answer, and he's sticking to it. That's his answer. His answer is no, as a matter of fact, this is what Charlie would have wanted. I've not seen an email that says that. I've not seen a text message that says that. The only evidence I have is Erica Kirk sitting next to Charlie, looking him in the eye and saying, a good mother cannot work that many hours. She would have to abandon her kids to do so, and it's unacceptable. That's the only evidence I have. That and a guy who took 1:09 to say he doesn't have his way with male interns. Saying otherwise.
A hard thing to be approached by people to say, well, what's going to happen if something happens to you? Heaven forbid. I think his wish for that is kind of a blessing and a curse type of a thing, right? Which is, the blessing is that Erica is incredibly strong, incredibly capable. I think she has a lot to bring to the table that's going to be able to help young women. The thing with the negative side to this is that, she was asking for this. This isn't something that like Erica, wanted to do. It's not like she was seeking it out. It's not like she was building a career to try to become CEO of Turning Point. She, this is something that has fallen on her shoulders.
And to hell with her kids, right? I mean, according to her standards, not mine. According to her standards, not mine. To hell with her kids. Now, again, I'm not the one saying that you can't work and be a good mother. That's not me. That's her. And if she's been thrust into this position, and I don't believe for a second Charlie actually wanted her in that position. But let's just say for the sake of argument, she did. So the answer is to hell with your kids, because you said that you cannot possibly do the job that you're supposed to do as a mother and do this. All right. Now, when did they meet? This has been the subject of considerable dispute. Watch him thread this needle. Watch him thread this needle. This is impressive. Because the question is, did you meet at the 2015 Trump rally, or did you actually meet before then? There's evidence you guys met before then, that you actually knew each other before then, that she actually reached out to you or you reached out to her, one or the other before then. Watch how he explains this. This is beautiful. In terms of BSing, it's beautiful. It's a work of art. It's a turd, but it's a work of art.
Great to get kind of a behind the scenes perspective on that with Erica. And in relation to this topic about Erica, I know a lot of people